Our world is always advancing. There's always something new to be discovered, a new problem to be solved, all for the possibility of having a better world and a better future. The internet is one of the most powerful advancements in technology existing today. Although only created a few decades ago, this piece of technology has changed the way the world operates, giving people access to unlimited amounts of information at the click of a single button. While the internet has become a necessity in many lives today, few know what goes on behind the scene. This is why we are here today. My name is Vasudha Srinivasan, a student at Carnegie Mellon University, and I welcome you to the world of the internet. Let's start with the basics. How do you imagine the internet? Some people think of the internet as like a library, a single place holding all the world's information. Others would think of it as sort of a connection of multiple wires, all coming together, connecting the globe as a whole. But what exactly is it?
To understand what the internet is, we must first define the word network. A network is a group of objects connected together in some sort of way. The internet can be viewed as a type of large network made up of many smaller networks. To be more specific, the internet can be viewed as a series of connections between each computer in the world. This web of connections is called a global network. But how exactly do we connect all the computers, all the devices in the world? Let's find out.
Let's start by doing a small activity.
For this activity, you will need one sheet of paper, a pair of scissors, tape, a pen or a pencil, and string. First, draw a small circle in the center of your paper. Then draw 4 more circles at random places of your paper. Make sure these circles don't overlap. In this activity, each circle represents a computer. Our goal is to find a way to connect these computers to form a network. To connect 2 computers, take a piece of string and tape each side to a respective computer. Try to find a way to connect all the circles with the fewest amount of strings possible. Here's your first connection.
Now it's time for you guys to try. Take a minute to pause this video and try a few solutions on your own. When you're ready, come back and play the video so that we can go over the solution together. Do you think you figured it out? Let's see if you got it. So the fewest amount of connections you would need, the fewest amount of strings you would need to use would be 4.
Here's an example of such a network connection. In this case, the 4 surrounding computers are connected to the center computer.
The network design that we have now modeled can be called a centralized network, with a single computer connected to all the other devices. We have now found a way to connect these 5 devices using the fewest amount of connections possible. However, is this system really the best way to connect a network? There are a few things we need to consider while attempting to design a network as large as the internet. One thing we need to consider is size. which is the amount of connections we would need. We have already looked at this situation. The fact that we have a fewer amount of connections means that we can have a more compact system that's easier to look over. However, another thing we need to consider is longevity. Essentially, it's the strength of the system and how long we can hold the network without it crashing or being destroyed. So let's look at the example that we were looking at. What would happen if one of the computers in this network was lost?
To test this, cut all the strings that are connected to the circle in the center. This represents what would happen if the central computer of a centralized network was lost.
This is exactly why a centralized network may not be the best solution for a network as large as the internet. If one connection is lost, then the whole system may fall apart.
So, what would be a better solution?
Take a moment once again to test out a few solutions on your own. And remember to still keep as few connections as you can while doing so. Do you think you figured it out? Let's see if you got it.
We can use 5 strings to connect the network and make sure that even if a single computer was lost, the remaining network still stands.
The resulting network that we have now found can be called a decentralized network. This model can sustain the network even if a part of it fails.
To test this, once again, cut the strings that are connected to a single computer. You'll notice that the rest of the model still stays intact, indicating that even if one computer is lost, the rest of the network still stands.
Therefore, this is the type of network that is used today for our internet. With this model, there are multiple paths that information can take to reach its final destination. It's like this. If you have 3 different ways to get to school, and one of the roads ends up being blocked, you can always take the other 2 paths to make sure you get to school on time. Just like there are multiple ways to get to a single destination on our roads and the places we travel to, the internet is similar in that way, all because it uses a decentralized network.
To summarize, let's go over the pros and cons of a centralized versus decentralized network. It all comes down to connections, how many paths exist within the network, and how these paths are connected. A centralized network has less paths. All the devices in this network are connected to a center computer with all the information. While this network is easy to organize, if the center is lost, so is the whole network. On the other hand, a decentralized network has more connections, and information is spread out throughout the network. While it is less organized and may take more time to travel through the network, it is more stable. If a computer in the network is lost, all information is not lost. Since there are more paths, even if a connection is lost, there may be another way to get to a destination. Therefore, to make sure the internet lasts, we want a system that is more stable, even if it may be harder to manage. A decentralized network is our best choice.
In the previous section, we looked at the way the internet is connected and briefly talked about the paths present in this network.
Let's now dive deeper into exactly how information travels within this network. When information travels through the internet, it essentially jumps from computer to computer through their connections until it reaches a final destination. Here's an example of how this occurs. The information goes in one direction and checks if there's a path to its ending position. If not, it then goes back and tries to find another way to reach the end. What causes this traveling to occur? When a user sends a request through their device, asking their computer to do something, this request is then sent through the internet to find the computer with the answer to this request. Once this computer is reached, this computer then sends a reply back to the initial device that the user is using. This is the response. You can think of it like taking attendance. When a teacher calls out a student's name, it is like they're sending out a request, asking the class of students whether a certain student is present. When that specific student responds, it is like they are sending a response back to the initial requester with the necessary information, the fact that they are present in the class that day. Let's now dive deeper into this traveling process. To understand how the information itself moves from one computer to another, we have to look at something called the protocol system. The protocol system is a set of steps used to send data over the internet. These steps essentially involve splitting information into small blocks that are individually sent over the internet to their final location. These small blocks of information are called packets. The process of splitting information into packets and sending them separately over the internet is called packet switching. Now, why is this done? Think about it like this. If you have 10 books that you have to carry across the street, would it be easier to carry all of them at once by yourself, or have 10 people carry a single book? The second would be easier, as everyone would only have to carry one book. Similarly, if information is split up and sent over the internet, it will be much faster than trying to move one big chunk. Also, since the internet is a decentralized network, each packet can be sent using different paths. If one packet gets stuck due to traffic, the other packets can take a different route so that all the information does not get lost. The device that sends packets to their proper location is called a router. In other words, the router routes packets to their endpoint. You may be having a few questions. For example, how is this endpoint found? And how does the computer know where the packets came from? Well, each device connected to the internet has a unique number assigned to it. This number is called an IP address, where IP stands for Internet Protocol. When the router routes a packet, it has two IP addresses attached to it: the address of the sender and the address of the receiver. Now, let's define the specific steps involved with the protocol system, which is made up of 4 main layers. The first layer is called the application layer. This is when the user asks the computer to do something, and the computer converts this into a message to transport over the internet. The message is then sent to the next layer of the system, called the Transmission Control Protocol layer, or TCP. This is the step that splits data into packets and numbers them so that they have an order. The next step is to assign the start and end IP addresses to each packet. This is done by the IP layer, where IP once again stands for Internet Protocol. The last layer is the hardware layer, where the router routes the packets over the internet. Once the information gets to the endpoint computer, it goes through these steps again, but backwards to reassemble the message. So the packets are all received by the hardware layer, but they may be out of order due to being sent over the internet separately. The IP layer reads where these packets came from. The TCP layer then puts the packets in order and reassembles them back into one message. The application layer then accepts the final message and then acts accordingly. And that's the protocol system. This is the basic structure of the internet and is the way the internet looked when it was first created. Since then, many new updates in technologies and advancements have been made and incorporated into the system and the concept of the internet itself. But for now, this is a very broad overview of what the internet consists of. Now, I know that was a lot of information to take in, so if you feel unsure about a certain topic, feel free to pause the video and go back and re-watch some of the topics we covered if you wish to do so. Before moving to the next section, make sure to take some time to do the review worksheet for this topic. It is labeled the protocol system. After completing it, use the answer key to go over your answers and then move on to the next section. Let's now take a detour and talk about how computers understand information. Have you ever wondered how computers understand all the commands we ask of it? When we press a button or type into a search bar, how does the computer understand what we're asking it to do? The truth is, computers can only understand zeros and ones. This means that all the information it interacts with, all the actions it goes through, all can be represented through zeros and ones. You can think of it as the computer only understanding yes and no, or true and false. You can also see this system as a switch that can be turned on and off, or a wave with a high peak representing a 1 and a low peak representing 0. This language of zeros and ones, of essentially two options, is called binary. So how does the language of binary work? To understand this, let's first talk about our present numbering system, the one we use every day, otherwise known as the decimal system. For numbers in the decimal system, each digit is a power of 10. As a reminder, powers are how many times you multiply a number by itself. For example, 4 to the power of 2 is 4 times 4, or 16. Coming back to the decimal system, each place of our numbers is a power of 10. For example, the first value of the first digit is 10 to the power of 0, which equals 1. The second digit would be 10 to the power of 1, which equals 10. And the third digit would be 10 to the power of 2, which equals 100. Let's call these values place values. Each digit has 10 possible values from 0 to 9. And once this value is above 9, you move to the next digit. Let's call these values digit values. To represent a number, you would have to multiply the digit value by the place value. So if you want to represent the number 4,379, for example, since the leftmost digit is 4, and the place value for this digit is 1,000, your total would be 4,000. Next, by subtracting 4,000 from 4,379, you have a remaining value of 379. The leftmost digit is now 3, and the place value for this digit is 100. So if you multiply these two values, 3 times 100, you have 300. Add this to our total to get 4,000 plus 300, which is 4,300. Once again, subtract this total value from the overall number 4,379 to get 79. This time, the leftmost digit is 7, and your place value is 10. So the overall number is 7 times 10, which is 70.
So for your total, again, you would add these numbers up, so it would be 4,000 plus 300 plus 70, which equals 4,370. So once you subtract this from the original number, you have a remainder of 9, which is in the ones place. And 9 times 1 equals 9. So then your total would be 4,000 plus 300 plus 70 plus 9, which gives us our final value of 4,379. Now, this explanation may seem a little confusing, as we normally do not think about all these calculations when using our numbers on a regular basis. Here's a more simple example. When you add two large single-digit numbers, such as 7 and 8, you end up with a double-digit number, 15, rather than a new single-digit number, right? When you reach 9, there are no more single-digit numbers to represent the upcoming values. Since the 10 symbols 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 have already been used once, we then move to the double digits place. Also, since there are 10 symbols, the place will then increase by powers of 10. Coming back, the language of binary follows a similar structure, except it uses 2's instead of 10's. In other words, it only involves two symbols, 0 and 1, rather than 10 like the decimal system. The place values would then be powers of 2 from right to left, with the rightmost place being 2 to the power of 0, which equals 1. The next value on the left being 2 to the power of 1 equal 2. Then the next one would be 2 to the power of 2, which equals 4, and so on. For reference, you can look at the values under the blanks on the screen. So once again, to compute a number in this system, you would need to multiply the digit value by the place value. Here's an example. Right now, we are looking at the value 1001, which is already in binary. Our job is to convert this number into decimal, our regular number system. Now, how do we do this? Let us follow the same system as before. So we have a 1 in the 4th position from the right. The place value for this is 8. And the digit value is 1. So 8 times 1 equals 8. And that's our first value. The next two digits are 0, since 0 multiplied by anything is still 0. So we don't have to add anything to our present total. However, the first digit on the right is also a 1. So the digit value times the place value, which is also 1, equals 1. This means that we have to add 1 to our total, giving us the value 9. Now, how would you go from a decimal value, such as 9, to binary? Let's try this together. The first question we must ask ourselves is, what is the greatest place value that is less than 9? Take a second to pause and think about this. It may help to look at the blanks on the screen. Have you figured it out? So the greatest place value would be 8. Since 8 is greater than 4, 2, and 1, but is less than 9. Knowing this, we can definitely put a 1 in this spot. Now, we have 3 spots remaining to fill. Our current total is 8, so let's subtract this number from 9. The remaining value we would need to fill is 1. Once again, let's look for the largest value less than 1, which in this case would be the place 1 itself. So let's add 1 to the space and then subtract it from our total. Since our total has now reached 0, this means that we can fill the remaining blanks with zeros, and then we're done. And that's how binary works. Let's go over a few more examples. How would we convert the decimal number 7 to binary? Take a moment to pause the video and try this on your own. Did you try it out? Let's go over it together. So the first step would be to find the largest place value that's less than 7. This would be 4, so let's put a 1 in this blank. Next, we have to subtract 4 from 7, giving us a remaining total of 3. What is the largest place value that is less than 3? Well, this would be 2, so let's put a 1 in this place and subtract 2 from our present total of 3. Now, our remaining value is 1, and the greatest place value would be 1, so let's put a 1 there and subtract 1 from our total. We now reach 0 as our total, which means we are done, and can fill in the remaining blanks with zeros. Let's go over one more example. How would we convert the binary value 1010 to decimal? Take a few minutes once again to pause the video and try this on your own. Did you get it? Let's go over it together. Let's start from the left and work towards the right. So the first 1 we encounter as a digit value is over the 4th place from the right, with a place value of 8. So our total right now is 8. We can skip over the zeros, so the next 1 would be over the 2nd place with a value of 2. So let's add 2 to our total, which is now 10. Since there are no more digits with 1 as the value, we are done. The decimal value that is represented now is 10. One trick you can use when doing these type of conversions is that odd numbers usually have a 1 in the ones place in binary. So some common terms you will need to know when dealing with binary are bit and byte. A bit is 1 unit, 1 digit of binary. A bit can hold 2 possible binary numbers, 0 and 1. On the other hand, a byte is made up of 8 bits, or 8 digits, and can hold up to 2 to the 8th possible binary numbers. So in the example we talked about earlier, the number 9, or 1001 in binary, would be made up of 4 bits. The binary number 100101000 with 8 digits would be 1 byte, or 8 bits of binary. Let's take a minute once again to go over the steps on how to convert from and to binary. So to go from binary to decimal, we must first start from one side of your binary number and look at each digit value. If the digit value is 1, add 1 times the place value to your total. If the digit value is 0, add 0 times 1 place value to your total, which is just 0. Once you reach the other side of your binary number, you're done. To go from decimal to binary, we must find the largest place value that is less than our decimal number, subtract that place value from our decimal number, and put a 1 in that spot. Then repeat the first 2 steps until the decimal value becomes 0. As a reminder for our diagram, the digit value is the number on the blank, while the place value is the place where the blank represents, which can be found under the blanks. To make this diagram on your own, you can just make blanks and put powers of 2 from right to left under the blanks, with your main number aligned to the right. Now it's time for you to try a few questions. Take some time to pause this video and look at the handout labeled Introduction to Binary. Make sure to read over the review and try out all the questions. When you're done, use the answer key provided to go over your answers. If you have any questions, feel free to go back and re-watch some parts of the video for more clarification. Good luck! If you want some extra practice with binary, check out the game at this website linked on the screen. There is so much more we can do with this language of binary. Not only can it represent numbers, but it can represent letters and symbols as well. There are also unique ways of doing calculations with them. While we will not be covering these topics today, I encourage you to go check out more online if you're interested. But for now, these are the basics of binary. For the past few sections, we discussed a lot of technical topics about the internet and how information on our computers is represented and shared. Now that we know the basics, it is time to talk about how we can stay safe while using this technology. Let's start by defining the terms cybersafety and cybersecurity. While these two terms sound very similar, their meanings slightly vary. Cybersafety is about morals and acting properly within online society. It is the idea of protecting yourself and respecting others while being online. On the other hand, cybersecurity is all about protecting the physical devices connected to the internet. It is the idea of keeping your device safe from online attacks when connected to the internet. Think of it as cyber safety being the process of protecting ourselves, our thoughts and emotions, while cybersecurity is the process of protecting our system, the tool that allows us to access the internet. There are many risks that one should be aware of when using the internet, no matter how small they may seem. What are some risks that you can think of off the top of your head? One major thing we must be careful with when being online is what we share. Since we're able to access the internet from almost anywhere, alone or around others, it can be hard to remember sometimes that the internet is a public place, with its information free for anyone to access at any time. Take a minute to brainstorm. What are some things that we should not share online? The major thing you should avoid sharing online is your private information. This could include many things, such as private documents, your address, your passport information, your daily schedule, and passwords. Why is this so? One thing to remember is that everyone online is not always good. Just like how the real world has both good and bad people, it's the same with the internet. With access to your private information, people can find out many things: where you live, what you do on a regular basis, when your house is empty, and depending on what you share, they may be able to access certain details that could put you in some amount of danger. It is even possible for people online to steal your identity, your money, your property, and your savings if you're not careful with what you share online. Because of this, please make sure to stay careful when using social media and sharing information on the internet in general. Additionally, do not share anything that you know you would not want certain people to see. Even if you think your sharing is private, when something is put onto the internet, it is there forever, and it is always possible for this private data to become public by a possible hacker or system fault. A popular statement people make is to never put anything that you don't want your parents, grandparents, or teachers to see. Another responsibility that we have when being online is being respectful of others. Always remember that there is another person behind the screen when interacting with others online. And just because you may feel hidden behind your screen, it doesn't mean you actually are. You would not want to treat people any differently online than you would in person. So those are just some general reminders related to cyber safety that should be followed to have a good online experience. Now, let's move on to talk about cybersecurity, about protecting your device and the information you have on it while using the internet.
The biggest threat to devices connected to the internet is malware. But what exactly is malware? Malware, or malicious software, is a type of computer attack designed to disturb, damage, or get access to a computer. There are many types of malware that can cause harm to our devices. Some examples include adware, ransomware, spyware, Trojan horse, and viruses. Let's briefly define these terms. Adware is the use of pop-up ads to make users click and download destructive programs. Ransomware puts a password on your computer's data so that you cannot access it, and then asks you to pay a ransom to recover your data. This malware is therefore sort of like a kidnapper of your information. Spyware secretly records your activity on your computer and sends this information somewhere else. A Trojan horse is a malware that will trick a user into downloading something while they are actually downloading a dangerous program that allows others to steal their information. Lastly, a virus is a destructive program that spreads through different computers by attaching themselves to programs shared through the internet. You can look at the link at the bottom of the screen leading to the Carnegie Mellon website to learn more about different malwares. Where is malware found? There are people who design and use malware to attack other devices using the connections of the internet. This malware can be disguised in many ways as an attempt to fool us and enter our computers. It can take the form of spam emails, jump from device to device, and enter from downloads and compromise websites. Then, how do we detect malware? Malware can take many forms. Let's go over some of the steps you can take to avoid malware attacks. First, make sure you update your system regularly. Malware tries to get to your computer through its security flaws, but if your computer is always updated, it will have a hard time doing so. Second, be careful with your email. The term phishing is used to describe malware attacks disguised through emails. Do not open emails from people and email addresses you don't know. Also, do not open any files or links from unknown sources. If you know who the email is from, it is always best to check with them whether they truly sent the email, so that you can make sure their system was not compromised as well. Third, do not download things from unsecure sites on the web. This is because you do not always know what you are downloading. Lastly, do not click on pop-up ads, as they can sometimes lead to unsafe downloads on your computer. Here are some signs that you may be affected by malware. 1. You seem to see a lot of pop-up ads, more than often. 2. Your device speed has decreased dramatically over a small period of time. 3. Some of your files seem to be missing. And 4. You cannot seem to access some parts of your computer. If you think your computer has been affected by malware, stop using anything on your computer that uses passwords, such as your email, or doing online shopping or accessing bank accounts. Make sure that you have security software that is running. If this software cannot find any issues, but you still see signs of malware, contact a professional. Now, let's go over a few examples of possible malware situations that people may face. One day, Sally gets an email from someone named Mr. Grover, who says he is a teacher at her school, and sends her a link saying that going to the link will give her access to practice problems to improve her math grade. However, Sally has never heard of a Mr. Grover in her school. What should Sally do? Take a minute to pause the video and think about it. So what should Sally do? Sally should probably email her math teacher or check her school website first to see if there is indeed a teacher named Mr. Grover
and if his email address matches the one on the website. She should also ask her friends if they've received a similar email. However, Sally should not click on the link or open any files that are sent from Mr. Grover until she can prove that the email is real. Why is this? Well, this is because this email could be a phishing attack, where someone is posing as a teacher at Sally's school to attack her computer using malware. Let's look at another example. David wants to watch the latest episode of his favorite show. However, it has not been released on his streaming website yet. David, however, finds a link on a random, unknown website to download the latest episode. What should David do? Well, David should probably wait for the episode to be released on his streaming website. Since David does not know much about the random website, there is a big chance that it could be unsecure. If David then downloads the video from this website, he may end up with something other than the episode itself on his computer. And that's just some of the basic information on cybersecurity and malware. I hope that you were able to understand some of the threats involved with using the internet. However, this does not mean that you should completely avoid using this tool. As long as you make sure to look out for signs of danger and act accordingly, you will be able to use the internet to safely access all the information you wish to. In the past section, we mainly talked about dangers to our system and how information online can be at risk. Now, let's discuss more on how we can protect this information. While there are many ways to protect data online, one major way is by using passwords. When information travels over the internet, there is sort of a lock and key system that it follows. Before information is sent through the internet, it is encoded or translated into a secret language that can only be translated back using a key. What then matters is who has access to this key, as only people with the key can decode or translate back the coded message. So there are two major categories of keys used to encode information: a public and a private key. A public key is when everyone has access to the key to decode the secret code. A private key, on the other hand, is when only certain people have access to the key to understand the secret code. By using this system, data is kept more secure when traveling over the internet. This is essentially how passwords work to protect your information. Let's talk about passwords. How do you make your passwords? How do you make sure these passwords are safe? Let's think about this for a moment. So there are a few methods one can use to make safe passwords. One method would be to use long passwords. The longer a password is, the more combinations one would have to go through to figure out your password. For example, if your password only consists of lowercase letters, then you have 26 options for characters that you have used. If you use 3 letters for your password, then there are 26 to the power of 3 many possible options of passwords that you may have used. However, if you use 8 letters, then there are 26 to the power of 8 options, which is a lot greater than 26 to the power of 3. Another method would be to use a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, along with some numbers and symbols. There are around 100 different characters on your computer keyboard. This means that a 3-letter password with different types of characters would have 100 to the power of 3 possible options, which is also a lot greater than 26 to the power of 3.
While all these numbers seem equally large to us, to a computer, these numbers are not so big. Our computers are becoming faster than ever, making it easy for them to crack passwords. Because of this, we should make it a point to make up good passwords to protect our information as much as possible. Have you ever wondered how long it would actually take a computer to crack your password? To test this out, take a minute to pause the video and visit the link on the screen. This website allows people to type in potential passwords to see how long it would take a computer to crack them. Have fun with this and try to come up with a few good passwords so that you can protect your information online. Now that we have talked about making safe passwords, how exactly do keys encode and decode information? How does encoding and decoding even work? There are numerous ways to encode information. To get an idea of how encoding and decoding works, let's go over some famous ciphers. What exactly is a cipher? Well, a cipher is just a way of writing something in a secret way. So one famous cipher is the Caesar shift. The Caesar shift is when you shift the alphabet a certain amount of spaces to encode a message. A positive key number means that you would shift the alphabet to the right by a value to encode. A negative number would mean that you shift to the left. For example, if you want to shift the alphabet by 1, which would make the number 1 your key, then the letter A in your message would become B, B would become C, and so on. So if you want to encode the word ace, it would become BDF, since A now equals B, C now equals D, and E equals F. However, if your key was -1, then ace, ACE, would become ZBD. Let's go over an example. For this example, we need to encode the word hello using a key of 3. To do this, let's write down our normal alphabet, then our new one under it to use as a reference. So in this case, A would become D, B would become E, and so on. Now, let's translate the word hello. Based off the new alphabet, H would become K, E becomes H, L becomes O, and O becomes R. So our encoded message is now KHOOR. To decode a message, we can flip the sign of the key. As an example, let's try to decode the message we just encoded, which is KHOOR. Since our key to encode was 3, to decode the key will become -3. So let's rewrite our alphabet accordingly. Notice that this new alphabet is just the same as the old one we used to encode, with the arrows pointing in the opposite direction. Now that we have written our alphabet, let's decode our message. K becomes H becomes E, O becomes L, and R becomes O. So we have now arrived back at our original encoded message, hello. And that's how Caesar shift works. Now it's time for you to try one on your own. Pause the video and try to encode the phrase, "My name is Hannah," with a key of 6. Once you are done, we will go over this question together. Did you encode the message? Let's go over it now. The first step would be to translate our alphabet. This is what the shifted alphabet looks like. Now, with this alphabet as reference, we can encode our message, which gives us this answer as the result. Did you get it? If not, it's okay. We will be trying out a few more questions, so stay tuned. Here's another question. Try to decode the message PKEG with a key of 2. Did you figure it out? Let's go over it together. So since the key is 2, we have to shift our alphabet by -2 to get back to the original alphabet. This is what it looks like. Now that we have our alphabet, let's decode the message. The final result turns out to be the word nice. Let's now look at another famous cipher, called the substitution cipher. The substitution cipher is a little bit more difficult.
Instead of
shifting the alphabet by a number of letters like the Caesar shift, you shift using a word. Let's say your keyword is pi. Then A would become P, B would become I, and C would become E. Then you would start replacing the alphabet with the remaining letters in the alphabet after the letters P, I, E are used in alphabetical order. This means D would become A, E would become B, and so on. Here's an example. Say we want to encode the message hello once again using the key code, C-O-D-E. Then for our new alphabet, A would become C, B would become O, C would become D, and D would become E. Then the rest of the alphabet would be filled in as shown on the screen. Now that we have our alphabet, we can translate our message, which will give us GAKKN as our result. To decode this message, we can set our translated alphabet back to the normal one as shown, or just go in the opposite direction of the diagram we made to encode the message. By using this diagram, we can decode the message GAKKN to find that the original message was hello. Now it's time for you guys to try. Pause the video and try to translate the message, "The internet is great," using the key blue. Once you are done, we will go over the question together. Did you encode the message? Let's go over it now. First, let's translate our alphabet. This is what the new alphabet looks like. Now, with this alphabet as reference, we can encode our message, which gives us this as the result. And that's just a few common ciphers. This process is essentially how information is encoded and decoded on the internet. However, this occurs in a far more complex way, with way more difficult ciphers that can be almost impossible for humans to crack on their own. Now it's time for you guys to try out a few more questions on your own. Check out the handout labeled ciphers. Remember to read the review and examples before trying the questions out. Once you have completed the questions, go over them on your own using the answer key provided. Good luck! Now it's time for another activity. For this section, refer to the handout labeled Cipher Activity Handout. Your task will be to encode and decode your own message using one of the ciphers we learned about today. Try to pick a message that is around 8 to 10 words at least, so that you can make sure your cipher works. Since this activity is unique to each person, I will not be able to personally go over the activity. However, you can make sure you did it right by seeing if the final message you decoded is the same as the one you initially encoded. If you are done with this activity early and want more of a challenge, then try the second page of this handout labeled Challenge, where you can try to make your own cipher. For this activity, once again make sure to use a relatively long message to encode and decode and make sure that your cipher works. If you want to try out some more ciphers, play some cipher games to test out your skill, and just learn more,
check out the website on the screen. For our final section, let's talk more about how the internet has affected our world. The topics that we have talked about today are just the very tip of the iceberg. Since its invention, the concept of the internet has grown so much to the point where it would be impossible to cover everything in a single video, with new parts being developed and added to the internet at this very moment. Over the past few decades, the internet has brought the world together and given it a great amount of power. Online businesses, libraries, databases, and greatly improved media are just some of the advancements that the internet has brought. However, the internet and its related technologies have also brought quite a few global problems, many mainly involving the security of thousands of people. One example of such problems include breaches. In 2013, Yahoo was hacked, with around 3 billion accounts affected. Then, in 2014, another breach occurred, this time affecting 500 million. However, both of these breaches were only reported around 2016, and have become known to be some of the largest breaches in internet history. Due to this, personal information such as names, birth dates, phone numbers, and passwords were stolen. As we learned previously, access to private information can result in many problems, such as theft and invasions of privacy. Imagine that happening to over 3 billion people. Another breach, while not due to hacking but poor security, is the one that occurred with Facebook just last year, in 2019. Because of this breach, over 540 million Facebook user records were exposed. Since these types of events are unexpected, it is always better to be safe and aware of what information you put on the internet, even if the site seems safe. Have you ever wondered how much about yourself is actually available online? One simple way to check this would just be to search yourself up. What do you find when you search up your full name? How about your address or your name and location? The use of the internet has sparked many debates over time. One of the biggest topics is about censorship, which is about how much of a role the government or certain companies should have in controlling what's available to the public through the internet. What do you think about this idea? Although the internet does have its flaws, it has an immense amount of advantages that make it worthwhile. It has brought us together with the ability to connect small villages to huge cities across the globe. With no doubt, the internet has changed our world and is continuing to do its job of making it a better place. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video and joining me on the journey of the world of the internet. I hope you were able to learn something about the internet, its structure, and the way information is on our devices and travels through this network. I hope you are also able to learn a little something about staying safe while using the internet and our devices. Do you want to see even more activities and information about the internet? If so, look to the links on the screen. Thank you once again for watching. Bye for now.